But ultimately, the exposition, the exhibition that the press gives to an artist may ultimately reach fans or give you more fans down the road.
Says who?
No, I'm just wondering. I'm just thinking out loud here.
I don't know if it does. Look, here's the thing. I think the press. I'm sorry. I think the press is going to be obsolete very, very soon here. I'm going to tell you why. Because of things like this. That's why. Because people are writing their own reviews. People are filming their own whatever it is. I'll give you an example. You know, you watch the 5 o'clock news. The 5 o'clock news is going to show you a 2-second clip of someone being whatever. You know, this person got their car stolen and was shot in the stomach. That's not news. That's not a news story. The news story is the person who uploads the entire video on their YouTube channel, and the people are now participating in it and they're talking about it. The nightly news, for the most part, newspapers, the nightly news, it's a bit obsolete for me. It doesn't, I don't know. Let me ask you this question. What do you think sells a record? A record review or someone talking about the record and them sharing the record with their friends?
What's the first half of the question?
Do you think a record review sells a record?
I think it does.
You do?
If you, so for example, I subscribe to music magazines, I read to like websites, music websites, and whenever someone is talking about a record, well, I used to do this when I was a child. Like I would go to the record store and buy it because I read a review. Nowadays it is changing, but yeah, I think like most people, they trust their friends more than the media. I think that most people, they are not reading a review.
How often did you read a review of a record, you went out and bought it and you loved it? How often did that happen?
It doesn't happen very often. It happened a few times.
Right.
But it doesn't happen very often. No, that's true.
Right. This is my point. My point being is that if you put it back in the hands of the people, the individual, look, here's the thing, here's what's coming down to. What's coming down to is this. The individual listener is being overlooked and lost. We're too busy as an industry looking at the masses. Okay? I'll give you an example of this. Last year, I did this thing called the 50 State Tour. I'm still going to do it. I'm going to finish. Have you heard about this thing?
Yes, I read about it.
Okay.
Yes.
So part of this thing with me was that, so I spent a good 20 years of my career going in and playing what's called the major market. Okay. During those 20 years, I had countless fans drive 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours, to go see me play for 35 minutes or 40 minutes set. Then get back in their car and drive 8 hours home to make their morning shift. This happened all the time. Why aren't bands going and playing these secondary markets or third, whatever you want, tier markets? Why aren't they? Why do you think they aren't?
In my experience, I'm from Brazil, so it took ages for international bands to get there.
Why is that, do you think?
Money. No one was paying. No one was paying.
Exactly. Has a little to do with art. This has to do, or connection. This has to do with money. Now, granted, there's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with business. People make business. You know, I make money after this. You make money after this. But somewhere down the line, you gotta think to yourself, okay, is this all just about money? He's working. Is this all just about money? You know? Yes, of course it is. Look at the festivals that are being put on. South by Southwest, whatever, you name it. They're full of advertisers, and this has very little to do with art and music. This has to do with money. And the thing that I've experienced of this last year with these smaller towns is that, like, I was able to make these crazy connections with people that I would have never met had I just kept playing the circuit, if you will. Where this is all going, from the beginning of this conversation to right now, is that there's a very strong disconnect. Very strong disconnect of what's happening between the industry and the individual. It gives an illusion of participating, but you're not participating. Not really. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree on many levels, because in my experience, I haven't been doing like this sort of professional journalism with
But
music.
you're a music fan.
I am a music
Right,
fan.
so how do you, as a music fan, feel about that?
Exactly. I've been realizing that there is a lot of promotion. What I want to say is that the feeling that I have nowadays is that discourse and promotion for an artist, they count more or at least as much as the music itself. So as the art itself.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow the art itself, the music itself, sometimes, not always, it gets lost. You only have promotion and discourse. You don't really have artistry, or you have a little bit of artistry for a lot of promotion. Mm-hmm. Especially now with like social media, you get all like, there's the whole like image stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole, I don't know, it's just like there is a circus around someone playing music. And music should always be the main reason.
But it's not. It's not anymore. It should be, but it isn't. You know what's really funny? So I heard this great quote not long ago from Ian MacKaye from Fugazi Discord Records, Minor Threat fame. He was giving this talk, and he goes, what do you think? He poses this question to the audience. He goes, what are record labels selling? And people are like raising their hands. What do you think? He's like, some guy says like an experience. Okay, an experience. What else? And someone, they give a few other things what they thought. He says, okay, these are all good answers, but I'm going to tell you what the record industry is really into doing. The record industry is into selling plastic. And he's right. That's exactly what they're doing. But they're selling plastic in very creative ways. And what's funny about that is that now you have the internet, which is kind of throwing a real, it's like ink in the water, you know what I mean? Now it's like, well, now what do we do? Oh, well, now we'll create a whole niche. Like, we see it all the time. Now we see it with vinyl, now we see it with cassettes, now we see it with the VHS things now coming back, or whatever the heck it is, It has little to do with music itself, or the experience of music.
And your experience of traveling America and playing in smaller cities and small venues is a reaction to that, is a way of you to connect directly to your public.
Yes, in a huge way. In a huge way. There was always a big difference between, I'll say this, going to like, there's a big difference between like going to like a Fugazi show when I was younger versus going to see, whatever, Metallica. I mean, it's two different genres of music. Same idea though, like you're there to see music, whatever. But there's just so much that's not about the music that I was getting from a Fugazi show. They weren't selling anything. It was just they did it was for the love of the music and for the love of the art, and I mean, obviously they had a record label, Discord, and all other, whatever. But in the end, like, you went to that show and you were there, to like experience and like just be absorbed in the experience of music and nothing else. And that's what this 50 state tour thing is really cool for me to do, because I'm going and I'm seeing and experiencing playing for music for people who just want to listen to music. They don't. There's no scene. There's no. And they're literally all ages. I mean, there are people that are in their 60s. There are people that are like teenagers. And I'm not playing in like. Also, every night's different. One night I could be playing in church. The next night I could be playing in some recital hall. The next night I could be playing in someone's, basement. Or next night might be at an actual venue. I'm just saying, like, it's breaking up this monotony of just like, you go to Chicago, you play this venue, then you go to Detroit. I mean, you ask any of these popular bands, their routing is pretty much the same. You know what I'm saying? And so, but you're avoiding really cool places you can be playing music in. I mean, really cool communities that the industry, and I mean the industry, we're talking like booking agencies, managers, record labels, and press. They're not even paying attention to it at all. And I'm saying, like, why not? Give me a reason why. Because I would love to hear it. I would love to hear that answer. Because what I've found is that those shows are the ones you remember. Those are the shows you walk away with, remembering, like, yeah, I totally remember, playing, wherever, Indiana, or whatever, Muncie, Indiana, or Columbus, Ohio, or, Stillwater, Oklahoma. I remember those shows. I can tell you, I've been to, like, New York many times. I played San Francisco many times. There may be one or two shows I remember for the most part, but I don't remember all those shows. I don't. So
final question before we wrap up.
Before they set up dinner?
Yeah, before they set up dinner.
Right. Yeah, well, whatever.
So, final question then. How does this experience that you are having with the 50 states is gonna translate into the new record?
I don't know if it does. I think it does. I think it does only in the fact that I am the connecting line between the two.
Okay.
But it also kind of goes back to, because the main character of this record is very disconnected with his time. The current, whatever time he's currently in, he's a very strong disconnect. So the character in this record is originally from like the 1950s, but he keeps landing in 1975, 1985, 1999, 1963. He's never really connecting with what's going on around him. It's a very isolating thing. And I thought to myself, that's not too far off than where I feel on a day-to-day basis sometimes, And I think sometimes a lot of people feel on a day-to-day basis. So anyways, it's dinner time.
Yeah, it's dinner time.
Yeah.
Damien, thank you very much for your time. And maybe you can have some dinner with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.